The side-scrolling beat-em-up was a genre that was once at the forefront of gaming. You were just as likely to be striding through murky, graffiti-covered alleyways, beating up the local delinquents in the 80s and 90s as you were to be exploring shady, underground facilities with a gun poking out of the bottom of the screen in the late 2000s. Whether you were loading Renegade from a tape on your Amstrad CPC, throwing coins into Final Fight at your local arcade, or heading down to the streets of Rage, there was plenty of digital, street-based violence to keep you occupied. If crime gangs weren't your thing, but you still wanted your taste of 2D physical assault, there were plenty of more outlandish offerings too. The likes of Battletoads, Golden Axe, and Alien Storm all had you covered if you wanted to beat up something a bit more unusual. With the advent of 3D gaming, the genre died off pretty quickly. The industry moved on, and side-scrolling beat-em-ups were left in the video game retirement home with point-and-click adventures and text-based games, reminiscing about the old days when they were relevant. Well, we've got news for you, side-scrolling beat-em-ups, you're relevant again! As evidenced by the 10 great games we're about to cover in this video. Come on, let's get back to the streets! The streets of violence. You thought I was going to say rage, but that's what we do here. We subvert expectations. Sort of. I'm Ben from TripleJump, and here are 10 great modern side-scrolling beat-em-ups. Number 10. River City Girls. We start our list with a gender-flipped reimagining of classic 1989 brawler River City Ransom. In River City Ransom, players control one of two street-fighting high school students as they battle through gangs of thugs on a mission to rescue the girl. River City Ransom enabled players to choose their path and revisit previously cleared locations around the city, which proved a unique spin on a predominantly linear genre. In WayForward's 2019 follow-up River City Girls, it's the boyfriends who have gotten themselves into trouble. The two protagonists, the ditzy Kyoko and the serious Misako, are both brimming with attitude, and the opening where Misako and Kyoko learn of their boyfriend's kidnapping and fight their way out of detention sets the tone nicely. The game retains the exploration aspect of its inspiration, as well as the ability for the protagonists to earn money and buy stat-altering accessories, recovery items, and new moves. A 2022 sequel was released called River City Girls 2, featuring more playable characters and an extra helping of high school and street-based mayhem. This time, the girls' boyfriends are playable from the start, which kind of spoils the first game, but come on, who really thought those two wouldn't get their fellas back? They kick ass! Number 9. Fight and Rage. Released in 2019 across multiple platforms, Fight and Rage serves up a modern side-scrolling beat-em-up with an extra order of futuristic sci-fi. Set in a world where humans and mutants are unable to coexist, players choose from one of two human characters or a mutant rebel and take the fight to hordes of rat men, wolf boys, and feline M. Bison cosplayers as they fight to overthrow the mutant overlord known only as the Boss. No, not that one. The retro-inspired graphics are lush and detailed, and the game has plenty of hidden depth, featuring a multi-path campaign with over 50 possible endings to keep you occupied. The path you take is dictated by your actions during the game, like saving or losing hostages, resulting in plenty of replay value as you try to work out how to differently approach certain situations. It's not all about branching story and difficult choices though, as there's plenty of button-mashing violence too. Fight and Rage lives up to its title when it comes to combat, with hectic brawls erupting all over the screen when more than one player is involved. Just make sure you don't lose sight of your character in all that chaos. Although this is easier if you play as giant bullman Ricardo, he sort of stands out. Number 8. Final Vendetta. Final Vendetta wears its inspirations plainly and for all to see. Not only does it take many clear cues from Streets of Rage, but it's also heavily influenced by Capcom and Konami arcade classics Final Fight and Vendetta. The clue is in the name there regarding those last two. Developed by Bitmap Bureau and released in 2022, Final Vendetta is more than just a tribute to side-scrolling brawlers of yesteryear and provides an updated experience with advanced pixel art graphics, a thumping soundtrack, challenging gameplay, and a pure street fighting feel. There's nothing quite like battling through a graffiti-tagged subway train filled with outlandish thugs and ne'er-do-wells, and Final Vendetta offers this sort of thing in spades if you're up for the challenge. Interestingly, the game makes reference to another staple of side-scrolling fighting games on its official webpage. One of its listed features is an array of succulent street foods to sample, continuing the grand tradition of beat-em-up characters refilling their stamina by way of discarded meats, fruits, and other delicacies they found on the floor, or in bins. Maybe that's how they all got so tough. Maybe I should... No, I shouldn't unless. Number 7. 99 Vidas. Developed by Brazilian studio QU Byte Interactive, this next title brings some South American flair to the genre. 99 Vidas, which means 99 lives in Portuguese, but pronounced better, is a side-scrolling brawler with 4-player co-op, a total of 11 playable characters, and an instantly recognizable, chunky art style. Set in an alternative universe, the protagonists have to retrieve an artifact known as the 99 Vidas, whose great power could prove catastrophic if it falls into the wrong hands. Not only does this artifact share the name of the game, but also of the popular Brazilian gaming podcast that was involved in its development. Don't worry about missing out if you're not a listener though, as 99 Vidas' visual style and gameplay can be enjoyed by anyone. Art style and flair aside, 99 Vidas does have some other signature touches. For example, each of the playable characters have elemental powers that affect their ability to take on certain enemies. Also, some of the more eccentric additions, like the Notebook Doodle bonus level, are unlike anything you'll find in other side-scrolling beat-em-ups. Well, unless you count Comic Zone, I suppose. Another nice touch can be found during a battle against the owner of a video game store when he transforms into an 8-bit version of himself. I don't know why, but it just makes him seem way more intimidating. Number 6. Scott Pilgrim vs. the World, the game. Scott Pilgrim vs. the World, the game was originally released by Ubisoft back in 2010. It was then delisted in 2014 and went missing for over 6 years before returning in the form of Scott Pilgrim vs. the World, the game Complete Edition in 2021. Hooray! Another side-scrolling beat-em-up to download quickly, now before it disappears again. This particular brawler is based on the Scott Pilgrim vs. the World graphic novels and tells the story of the titular Scott Pilgrim and friends' fight against the 7 evil exes of love interest Ramona Flowers. It's a lot like that film. You know the one. Scott Pilgrim vs. the World. Yeah, that's it. Featuring an eye-catching and adorable pixel art style, Scott Pilgrim vs. the World, the game, tasks players with guiding the protagonists through various teen hangouts and beating up pretty much anyone they see in quick, fluid combat, all whilst listening to an awesome retro-style soundtrack courtesy of Anamanaguchi. The Complete Edition comes with the DLC that was released separately the first time around, adding 2 playable characters and additional game modes. One such additional mode is Dodgeball, in which you bash people with a dodgeball. It's a lot like that other film. You know the one. Dodgeball. Number 6. Castle Crashers Remastered. Back in 2008, something happened that hadn't happened for a very long time. A side-scrolling beat-em-up took the gaming world by storm. Released via Xbox Live, Castle Crashers provided a comical medieval take on the genre. Helmets were donned, goblins were slain, and cute deer projectile pooped themselves into the hearts of gamers everywhere. In 2015, Castle Crashers Remastered was released, just about qualifying it as modern. Sort of handy. Expanding on the irreverent and addictive multiplayer gameplay of the original, this re-release featured higher quality textures, performance and frame rate improvements, and an additional minigame, meaning that newcomers and veterans alike had an excuse to enter the world of Castle Crashers once again. And what a world it is, featuring brightly coloured knights using their physical and magical attributes to wade through the horde of enemies serving a mysterious evil wizard. No fantastical stone is left unturned and no boundary is left uncrossed. Demons and dark knights give way to robots and aliens before long, with lots of weird, wacky and downright unsettling encounters in between. Oh, and in case you were wondering, yes, the projectile animal poop was also remastered. Number 4. Young Souls. We've seen some side-scrolling beat-em-ups with RPG elements already, but 2022's Young Souls is arguably the one that blurs the lines the most. It's got all the trappings of a traditional RPG, but its combat is most definitely that of a 2D brawler. As such, players can expect to earn experience and level up their character, equip weapons and accessories, and explore a goblin-filled fantastical setting on an epic quest, but also stomp their enemies in delightful bouts of side-scrolling violence. The story concerns a pair of unruly, foul-mouthed twins who have been taken in by a mysterious professor, and when the professor goes missing, it's revealed that he has been trying to broker a peace with an underground nation of goblin-like creatures. While most of the game takes place in delightfully dreary dungeons and spooky, monster-infested castles, there's also a quaint, modern town to explore. Here, the twins can go shopping, go to the gym, and zip around from place to place on their lovely moped. There's a lot to like about Young Souls. The combat is satisfying, the RPG elements are meaningful, the story has some great moments, and the twins' surprisingly profanity-laden dialogue is unexpected. If you enjoy fighting games or RPGs, then you could do far worse than to order this absolutely baller dungeon crawler brawler. That's good, isn't it? Number 3. The Takeover. Right, enough goblins and fantasy stuff, we're going back to the mean streets now, and we're mostly staying there for the rest of the video. Gritty urban brawler The Takeover is another game that wears its influences clearly, but developer Pelican 13 have gone with a very striking modern visual style that gives this particular beat-em-up a manner all of its own. With its arcades bathed in smoky neon and its rainy city streets, The Takeover is infused with a seedy 90s action movie atmosphere which is maintained when locations get a little more exotic later on. The game also offers top-quality gameplay, with dedicated punch and kick buttons, meaning skilled players can string together huge combos, juggling enemies and tossing them into one another as long as you don't get yourself surrounded. Just like in the games that it takes inspiration from, success comes from positioning and crowd control as much as it does laying down quick-fire, damaging moves on your enemies. One thing The Takeover does that many of its predecessors do not, though, is equip its playable characters with firearms. Ammo is at a premium, so they can't be used over and over, but it can definitely be satisfying to occasionally go all indie on that one annoying enemy. Number 2. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Shredder's Revenge. During the beat-em-up glory days, a few popular media franchises got in on the side-scrolling action. Dungeons & Dragons, X-Men, and even The Simpsons were known to engage in some 2D fisticuffs from time to time. Probably the most successful franchise to make that jump to beat-em-upsville, however, was Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. The antics of this quartet of martial arts amphibians proved to be perfect fodder for the genre, and Tribute Games' 2022 release, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Shredder's Revenge, is no exception. Opting for a loose and fast-paced gameplay style, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Shredder's Revenge allows up to 6 players to jump in and out of addictive, action-packed brawling. The game is a spectacle to behold, delighting fans of the original cartoons with its bright, colourful style and over-the-top set pieces. Want to fight your way through a zoo as escaped animals embark on uncontrolled rampages? This game has you covered. Want to chase down a monster truck on jet-powered hoverboards? Yeah, the Ninja Turtles do this kind of thing on the daily. A word of advice, though, regarding Turtles-based beat-em-up etiquette: if you're invited to a friend's house for a multiplayer session, make sure you bring pizza. Number 1. Streets of Rage 4. When Streets of Rage 4 was conceived, its developers had some big shoes to fill. Streets of Rage 2 is often considered to be the pinnacle of the genre. The original Streets of Rage is also a revered classic, and Streets of Rage 3 has lots of talking points. The Sega-endorsed Streets of Rage 4 was released in 2020, 26 years after the third game in the series, and needed to update the classic formula for a modern gaming world while staying true to what made the older games great. Luckily, the developers did just that. The art style and music make for a stylish experience, the brawling gameplay is impactful and well-balanced, and the new characters and locations fit into Streets of Rage lore nicely. Adam, no, not that one, is playable for the first time since the first game, and lots of entertaining nods to previous titles are included. We see you there, Roo, you dangerous, adorable little kangaroo, you. In many ways, Streets of Rage 4 is a perfect continuation of a classic series, and most importantly, the fact that it finally exists is proof that the side-scrolling beat-em-up genre is alive and well once again. Whew, I feel a bit punchy after all that. Time to get my knuckle dusters and hit the alleyways. Maybe I'll see you in the streets, the streets of fury. Again, you thought I was going to say rage, didn't you? Gotcha.